you don't really compromise when you have an opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and it's something that I've been thinking about specifically in the context of like interpersonal relationships recently, because that's like the amazing thing about recovery is that it starts to give you this ability to like grow and like evolve as a person.
Yeah.
Which I think we're not doing very much when we're like pickling ourselves with alcohol and just like smoking all of our problems away and like just in this sort of haze of intoxication. Like we're not really like, we're getting older, but we're not growing, right? As people. And so I think that's what sobriety unlocked for me in a lot of ways, but it has to be a continuous and ongoing process. And like I said, I'm not even practicing physical sobriety anymore, but I still like all the tools that I got in recovery. And like in terms of growing and evolving, like I am an insanely stubborn person, right? And I think that like a lot of things, I'm insanely stubborn. And like a lot of things that can serve us like incredibly well in one context, but it can be like totally alienating and destructive in another context. So in terms of like interpersonal relationships, it's just something that I'm thinking about. Like I'm still a stubborn motherfucker. Like that probably hasn't changed, but I'm like, oh, like maybe that should change, like, because I think that I want to like have a family. I want to have other stuff in my life that I don't have yet. And especially if I'm like becoming successful and like having success in my life, like what's the point of doing that if you're not going to like share it with more people and share it with your friends and family and start your own family and do all this stuff. And I think that it's a requirement to make space for other people in your life. And sometimes that requires compromising or like being a little bit more open-minded to stuff. And yeah, it's hard because in some areas of life, like in work, being uncompromising and being stubborn has led me to be successful, right? But in other parts of life, interpersonally specifically, I think that I'm trying to think about strategies and ways that I can like be the opposite of stubborn and be like more accommodating and tolerant and stuff like that. But it doesn't come naturally to me at all. I'm a stubborn motherfucker. And like, yeah, it can be it's just good and bad. People love it and hate it. And I think the people that love me know I'm stubborn, but I think I can make it easier on relationships by mitigating that or balancing that a little bit,
I have a question for you. We both were around, and I think you were going through your own stuff, and I went to rehab pretty much almost the same day as Armie. We ended up going to rehab at the same time, but I remember being like feeling that he was doing things that were going to cause him a big problem. Like I remember specifically, I feel like he was making the choices that he was making. Like he seemed to be attracted to girls that I think were glaringly red flags. And he also at the time seemed like he was also real proud of the fact that he was like doing drugs and was posting stuff about that. And so like, I remember telling him, I was like, it is so clear that you are cruising for a bruising. Now we're both really close with him. And I think that this is a helpful conversation for anyone that has someone that they're close to that is clearly cruising for a bruising. Is there anything going back that you like, do you feel like you could have been louder or more helpful in shaking him?
I think that's an interesting question. And like, definitely we're both like some of his best friends. And also like we've become best friends too, like just from having known each other for such a long time. And I'm grateful for all those friendships. And I think that it's, what I think we could relate on this, but you tell me, like, I think what I've learned through recovery, when you're in recovery, you like have a lot of other friends and sort of like road dogs or, compatriots who are going through the same thing.
Sure.
You can't like stop somebody, right? People are going to have to go through whatever they're going to have to go through to ultimately learn if it works or not for themselves. And, I don't know what happened with you, but with me and him at a certain point, I just was like, listen, dude, you're fucking up. Like, I was just like, you are fucking blowing it. And like, I probably
blowing it.
Yeah. I said, just blowing it. And I was like, what I specifically remember saying was like, you're being a fucking dumbass. Like, you're being stupid at this point. And he was like, you don't call me stupid, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, if you're not going to listen to me, you're not going to listen to anyone. Yeah. Because I've been friends with you since we were 11. I'm a former fuck up myself, and like we're all, you know, we can relate. I'm not saying this from a place of judgment.
Sure.
But he just, you know, his ego was too big to hear it at that time. And like that's something that I can relate to also. And I think that we get to a place in our lives sometimes where we stop listening to everybody, not just like people that we don't listen to anyways. We stop listening to like the closest people in our lives, our best friends, and basically our like extended family. And yeah, you know, it just was, I don't think that I could have done anything to change the outcome that he had to go through. But I do think that I'm happy that I did say something, right? Because I just think that at a certain point in time, like, you're not a good friend if you're not going to like
no,
say
of course.
something. You have to have like a point where you're just like, I'm going to communicate to the person that this is like too much, right? And I would also want the closest people in my life to do that too, right? Like I need it just as much as I want to give it out. And like, we're really lucky if we have people like that in our lives who are going to actually care enough about us to just vocalize something, right?
Sure.
It usually doesn't make a difference, but it actually, on the receiving end, I appreciate knowing that I have friends who will be like, dude, you got to do something, right? Not because it's going to change my mind, but just because it might help a little bit.
I think that always helps a little bit, even if it just shakes them or makes someone get really angry. But I think for myself, I think I think that would have some guilt that would be very difficult to handle if I wouldn't have been louder. And because he's always also been really loud for me if I have been kind of visibly going in the wrong direction or really.
You're saying you wish you were more loud about it?
No. If I wouldn't have said anything, I mean, we got into real heated, kind of friendship almost stop. Let's say friendship pausing periods.
Yeah. Similar
over it.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, then I think it was such a colossal crash that I would have been like, oh man, why the heck didn't I say something? So it is all I heard. I think it was Russell Brand. I heard say something which I think is so helpful, which is the idea is that you say to someone, I will help you change, but I will not help you stay the same. So like, this is what I'm offering. If you need any help to change, great, but I'm going to do nothing and contribute nothing to you staying the same. All the best.
Yeah, I like that quote. I guess like the way that I might think about it is, who knows what would have happened if you and I both didn't like confront him. Maybe he'd be dead. Who knows? Like, we can't say. Like, it took what it took for him to get his shit together. And yeah, look, I mean, I just think that this is true of anyone who's struggling with addiction. I don't think that any of these dynamics are like unique to a specific person. I think they're kind of like universal dynamics of addiction, right? Like, when you have that problem, like, you're going to go till the wheels fall off. And that's why we say, like, you had to get to a bottom. Like, you had to get to a point where you're just like, I give up, God. Like, I fucked up. And like, I tried it my way 100 times over. And it turns out my way sucks, you know, like, so.
That's a conversation you have to have.
It's a painful lesson.
Yeah.
It's a painful lesson, but a valuable lesson.
You have